Here's the first detail, finding Metal Sonic in Eggman's lab in Sonic Adventure. As Sonic traverses through the Mystic Ruins, hops on a minecart, and stumbles upon this beautiful jungle, as you progress through the story, Eggman builds a base in this area. At some point in the story, Sonic actually has to head into the base, and if you explore around this base for a little bit, you will stumble upon Metal Sonic. While Metal isn't featured in the actual story of the game, it's really cool to see that continuity of him being locked up in Eggman's lab, presumably getting tweaks and upgrades to get stronger. Because if you think about it, Metal Sonic was originally made to match classic Sonic, but now Sonic is starting to grow up a little bit, which in turn is why there technically is a classic Metal Sonic who looks like this, and now a modern Metal Sonic that looks like this. He's a little bit taller to match his counterpart. Furthermore, another neat detail is that we also see Mecha Sonic in here as well. His first appearance was in Sonic 2, so you just really love to see that continuity and world building that Sega was doing around this time. The attention to detail is absolutely incredible. Here's the next detail, finding other characters in the adventure field. I always thought Sonic Adventure was by far the most immersive Sonic game. One of the coolest things in this game is finding other characters in the hub world, and speaking to them can provide context for where they are in their own respective stories. As you all know, in Adventure, there are 6 intertwining stories, so each one has things that are happening off screen, so these moments do provide some of that context. For example, when Sonic and Tails are leaving the casino level, and then Eggman sprays them with some type of like poison that in turn makes them fall asleep. And then in Knuckles' campaign, you'll see Sonic and Tails sleeping on the side of the streets. Stuff like this adds to the immersion of the experience, and it just makes it feel like the things that you do in the story do matter. But to take it even a step further, the human characters also provide a lot of context for what's going on in the story too. You might walk up to one of the NPCs and see someone say, "You can see Robotnik's fallen airship in the sea. It still hasn't sunk, it's just floating there." Which at this point in the story, Sonic hops on the boat over here, and then you can return to the egg carrier. Or here's an even better example. I have a cleared campaign, so if I go over to the newsstand right here, it'll say that Tails did much better than I expected. I think he's much stronger now than before. The reason why this character said this is because this is when Tails defeated Eggman in Station Square, so all the people know that Tails is now a hero. Even if you're playing Sonic's campaign, you might not have known that that's happening, but the world building is certainly there. You know, unfortunately, they kind of threw all that away in future Sonic games for whatever reason, like Tails already went through his arc, but that's a conversation for a different video. Here's another detail. The objectives of the levels changing depending on where you are in the campaign in Sonic Adventure. So here's a great example of this. In Emerald Coast, after you beat Sonic's story and you return to the level, you'll notice that there's an animal capsule at the end of the stage. The story of Sonic Adventure starts off with Tails crashing his plane onto Emerald Coast.
Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
But if you're playing a fresh campaign and you go into Emerald Coast, you'll see Tails crashed on the side of the beach with his tornado there. By the way, don't ask me why there's a Tails next to me. Or during other times of the story, the objective is to chase down a Chaos Emerald. So instead of the animal capsule, you'll actually go and collect the emerald in the stage. These dynamic, ever-changing objectives that adapt to where you are in the story, once again, is the reason why Sonic Adventure is one of the most immersive Sonic games. I don't like the game just for the gameplay. It's the little details like this that really make me appreciate it. In future Sonic games, they kind of phase this out by just opting for going into goal rings and then progressing the story off camera, but Adventure is like this fleshed out world. Ironically, even though Sonic Forces is a very hated Sonic game, they actually brought some of this back. Like for example, Sunset Heights, you run into Shadow. When you complete Metropolitan Highway, Eggman is waiting for you at the end of the stage. But the little things like this are things I'd love to see in future Sonic games. Here's the next detail, finding Big the Cat hidden in Sonic stages. For whatever reason, Sega just loves hiding Big the Cat in random Sonic Adventure 2 stages. Some of the locations where you find him is just so ridiculous. There's even some instances where you can make him appear in cutscenes, like he's on the Ark for whatever reason. But this isn't exclusive to just SA2. Somehow, Big has snuck his way into Sonic and the Secret Rings. Throughout several missions in the game, you'll see him somehow finding himself in trouble. In Sonic Heroes, you can find references to Neo Metal Sonic in Hang Castle. In Sonic Heroes, there's several boss battles against Dr. Eggman, and it's presumed that he's like the final villain of the game. But it turns out that those Eggmans are actually fake, and the real villain that you fight is Neo Metal Sonic. It turns out that the real plot twist is that Neo Metal Sonic is in it for himself, and he even betrays Dr. Eggman. Being that Sonic Heroes was my first ever Sonic game, all this was kind of surprising to me because I had no idea who the hell Metal Sonic even was at the time. So in Hang Castle, there's a giant statue of Dr. Eggman, but there's a mechanic in the level that turns the stage upside down. So when you turn the Dr. Eggman statue upside down, you will notice that Neo Metal Sonic is on the other side of this statue. It's great foreshadowing when you look back on it. Obviously, I didn't pick up up on this because I didn't know who Metal Sonic even was when I first played the game, but nonetheless, this is certainly one of my favorite details of Sonic Heroes. In Sonic Unleashed, the Pelicans will guide you back to the track. Sonic Unleashed is certainly a game full of...
Here we go!
But have you ever taken a second to stop and just slow down for a second? So in Sonic Unleashed, let's say you somehow got your way off the path and you're going extremely slow, not tapping the boost button. You might run into this pelican right here. If you walk up to him and let's say maybe you give him a nice little kick or something, he will direct you back to where the track is. We got another pelican over here, so let's give him a nice little tap, and he's gonna tell us to go this way. Even though we hit him, he's kind enough to guide us back to our way. Sonic Unleashed is full of incredible little details like this, and it just goes to show how much love was put into this game when they made it. In Sonic Unleashed, if you go to Spagonia at nighttime, you can hear somebody singing the theme song of the game. If you enter into Spagonia and take the first right into this alleyway, walk up to this window, if you go into the settings and turn the music volume down to 0, which almost feels like a crime because the OST of this game is incredible, this is what you will hear. I'm sure this guy doesn't appreciate us eavesdropping on him, so let's get the hell out of here. Sonic Superstars, depending on which character you're playing, you will see the other playable characters in the background. Sonic Superstars is a game that I feel like kind of gets a bad rap. Despite the bad rap that it gets, there's a lot of neat qualities about the game that I do like. For example, if you're playing as Sonic, you might run into Amy in the back of the stage. I also like that the cameos to the other characters feel accurate to what those characters would be doing at that point in time in the story. For example, in the Sky Temple level, you'll see Knuckles gliding in the background. Or let's say you're playing as Amy in Speed Jungle, you might see Sonic and Tails running in the background behind you as well. But let's say this time you're only playing as Tails, you'll see Sonic running in the background by himself. So it's these little details that I just find really interesting about the game. And this happens all throughout the campaign. I'm not going to sit here and do every single one, but it's a nice little touch that acknowledges the fact that 5 different characters are playable in the story. Or one of my favorites, you might run into the infamous creepypasta Tails doll from Sonic R in the background. Here's another detail that I love about Sonic games, the randomized weather in Sonic R and how it affects the racetrack. In Sonic R, some of the levels feature water, and if you go in it, it's going to slow your character down, and also he kind of like submerges himself under it, which if you're trying to win a race can definitely get in the way. Since the game has a randomized weather system, which by the way kind of just adds a little bit of flair into the tracks, one of the really neat details about this is that the water in the stage turns solid and you can run on top of it. So you know, it actually could be pretty beneficial to the player. Instead of slowing them down, it provides a little bit of a different way to play. There's over 1,000 lines of dialogue and 500 character interactions in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. So this is obviously fresh in everyone's mind. It's not obscure. If you've been paying attention to the franchise for the last month or so, you know about this, but I would just like to say how awesome it is that we have all these different character interactions in Racing Cross Worlds. You get to hear characters that you would otherwise never see interact in the Sonic franchise, some of them even interacting for the first time, and they get to acknowledge the character dynamics between the two. They get to acknowledge past adventures that some of the characters have had, and I promise you, the general audience would not have been swayed one way or the other if they didn't do this. This was a detail they included exclusively for the fans, so there's no way that I could leave this out as one of my favorite details in the entire Sonic franchise. In Sonic and Mario at the Olympic Games, certain characters would have unique victory animations. Before there were Sonic Racing Cross Worlds interactions, we had interactions in Sonic and Mario at the Olympic Games. In a similar fashion to how certain characters would interact with each other in that game, you would see the unique character dynamics in play in this game too with the cutscenes. You love to see Dr. Eggman and Bowser, the two big bad villains, interacting with each other and having a little fun. I think one of my favorites is the one between Shadow and Silver. The reason why is because it seems like they kind of had this beef with each other, so I wonder if it's a reference to this.
Chaos control!
Sonic Rush, if you tap on Sonic using the Nintendo DS screen, Sonic will have an idle animation. So Sonic Rush is the first Sonic game on the Nintendo DS, and it's a game that's beloved by the fans. The Nintendo DS had 2 screens, one of which being a touchscreen, which was pretty revolutionary for the time. And I guess to showcase how cool it was, one of the neat details that not many people know about is that if you tap Sonic, this animation will play. They didn't need to put this in the game, but little things like this, again, are just extremely cool. Sonic Lost World, the CGI cutscene to level transition of Tails Tornado. So Sonic Lost World is one of those games that, you know, I don't really have a lot of great things to say about it, but there's one thing that I always found kind of cool. So the opening cutscene of this game features Sonic and Tails chasing Dr. Eggman on the tornado, and by the end of the cutscene, you see Sonic and Tails speeding on the tornado towards the Lost Hex, which has a perfectly smooth transition into the gameplay, where you actually see Tails flying past you on his tornado with the in-game model. This isn't that crazy, but seeing the transition from Tails' tornado in the cutscene to actually being in the level when he flies past you is like a very small but immersive detail that I really enjoyed.